And hi everyone.
Hi.
Can you put me on the primary video? Hi, before we get started on this holiday baking class, if you don't mind putting your screen on mute, feel free to unmute and ask questions if you have any, but just to limit the background noise, if you can put your screen on mute, that'll be great. Can you switch my view? Healthier Country Club. I hope everyone is having a good holiday season so far. I put together some simple recipes for you to make at home. These recipes are pretty simple. They're very fragrant, so if you're baking in the kitchen, everyone will love walking in there and smelling all your baked goods. So today we're going to make some herb focaccia, apple crumble dessert, a gingerbread cookie that is soft and glazed with a sugar glaze on top, and bananas foster. And I know some of you got your ingredients together to make the apple crumble. So the first recipe that I'm going to start with is the oat crumble on top of the apple crumble. I'm going to start, if you have a mixer, get your mixer ready with a bowl and a paddle. This is a simple crumble recipe. If you have another crumble recipe that you like, you can also use that and put that on top of the apple. Okay. Again, if you have any questions, please unmute and ask me. Okay, we're going to start with some soft butter. For many cookies and baked goods, you want your ingredients at room temperature so they can properly emulsify and mix with each other. So this butter I've left out at room temperature for a few hours and it's pretty soft. Have a little bit of salt that balances out the sweetness. Some flour. And at home, you don't have to put everything scaled into a container. I gave you weighted measurements, so you can just measure your ingredient right into the bowl so you don't waste a lot of tools. Now I have some sugars. I have a little bit of brown sugar and white sugar, granulated sugar. And then last but not least, the oats. The oats are great for some texture in your crumble. All right, so you want your paddle inside the bowl. We're going to turn this on slowly. This crumble, you can make ahead of time. You can reserve it in your fridge, and then just pull it out as you need. It'll last you a couple of weeks. So I'm going on speed 2. All right. I don't know if you can tell, but crumbly, but not everything is not together. I want to get you started on this if you can let it chill for a little bit in your fridge. Can you wash, please? All right, so right here I have a quarter sheet pan. I'm just gonna put that on there. And as you can see, this is quite a bit. Like I said, you can just keep it in your fridge and you can crumble this onto your apple crumble, or you can bake it off and then you can crumble that onto your ice cream or other desserts. Chill. Right. So just set your crumble aside, and the next recipe I'm going to start with is the focaccia recipe because it needs to mix for a few minutes. So for the focaccia, the day before I made what's called a pre-ferment. A pre-ferment is basically just flour, some water, maybe I put in a pinch of yeast. This pre-ferment is just going to give your bread a head start and a lot of flavor. Let me just put out all my ingredients here. All right, so again, with your mixer, I know you're not, I don't think you have this scaled out to work on at home. So I'm just going to go through this a little faster than the last one. So my pre-ferment I made yesterday, as you can see, it rose a little bit. It was down here last night, now it's up here, and it's a little bit spongy. I hope you can tell. Pull this back off. So in your bowl, you can start with your pre-ferment. Your water, room temperature should be fine. Your bread flour. Your yeast, and I used instant dry yeast. Some olive oil. And I think I left this out of your recipe, but the salt you want to set aside and you want to add it at the very last. So everything else in a bowl. And we're going to combine it with a dough hook. Okay, I'm going to start on stir. Then I'm going to turn it up to C2. We're going to let this go for 8 minutes. I know I put 4 minutes. That's on my bigger mixer. For a little mixer, about 8 minutes. So that's going to go. So I'm going to put the salt next to it so I remember to put it in there later. Okay. Now we're going to go back to the apples. If you have your apples, please get them ready. Since apples take so long to bake, I like to par cook the apples. That's just cooking it a little bit before you put it in the oven to bake. I like I like Honeycrisp apples. They're sweet, a little bit tart, and they keep a very nice texture when you bake them. You can bake with other apples, but I find like Granny Smith apples, they're a little bit mushy when you bake them, and other apples are too dry. I just find the Honeycrisp apples have a really nice texture. So here I already have 4 apples diced, cored, and peeled. So I'm going to show you one apple where I'm going to peel and core and cut for you to see. Does someone have a question? Okay, so here is a nice Honeycrisp apple. I use what's called a Y peeler. It's relatively inexpensive and it's very nice. Peel the top, peel the bottom. Nice and peeled all around. And I cut it in half. Cut it in half again. I'm just gonna cut this core piece off. Throw these away. And then you just slice through them. This side. So each quarter I cut into 4 or 5 pieces. Keep them as close in shape as you can so they cook at the same time. All right, so let's start with the apple filling. I do have one correction on your recipe. I put in 8 8 ounces of granulated sugar when it should be 2.5 ounces of granulated sugar. So about this much. So if you already measured out your sugar for the apples, please take some sugar out. So very simple. I have my apples into a pot.
Sorry, how much sugar then? 3.5 ounces?
2.5.
0.5? Thank you.
Yes. Then I have my cinnamon and nutmeg. My sugar. A little bit of butter. And you should always, when you're doing baking recipes, use unsalted butter. Then I turn on the heat. Let that start cooking. And to help absorb and thicken the liquid from the apples, I'm going to make a cornstarch slurry. Basically, that's two ingredients. This cornstarch, here I have 0.75 ounce of cornstarch and some cold water, 1 ounce of cold water, which you're going to whisk together.
How much water did you put in?
In 1 ounce.
1 ounce? No, but in the pot
In the
initially.
pot, I didn't put any water in.
Nothing? Oh, okay.
No. The water, well, water will come out of the apples a little bit.
Okay. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. So you're going to start smelling all the spices in there. And remember, we're not cooking the apples all the way, just part way. While that's cooking, I'm going to go back into my dough and scrape the sides.
How many minutes did you let that dough hook work?
That was about 6 minutes that was going. I'm going to let that go for about 4 more minutes, actually. And I turn it up to speed 3. Okay, so the apples are cooking. You can see it starts to bubble on the bottom from the juices and from the butter. So I'm going to stir in the cornstarch slurry while it is hot. And then you just keep stirring until the whole thing on the bottom thickens. And it smells amazing right now. How's everyone doing? All right. So this is thickened. You can see. So now you can do one of two things. You can go ahead and fill your vessel, or you can just store this away for whenever you need it. Maybe you have company in a couple of days. You can make it a day or two in advance if you like. I'm going to go ahead and fill my ramekin. So here I have 4.
How long do
Easier
you,
with a spoon.
how long do you keep the apples on the stove for?
I kept it on the stove about 5 minutes. All right. I'm going to let this cool for a little bit because if you remember, there's butter in the crumble, and if you add them to the hot apples, the butter will start to melt immediately. I'm going to let it cool for a few minutes. Done. 5. All right. Now we're back with the dough. You can see it's starting to come together. This dough does get 2 what's called, now it's escaping my mind here, stretch and fold. So you don't have to develop this dough all the way when you're mixing it. But we do have to add the salt. So all the salt in at once, and then you're going to let it run for 30 to 45 seconds. Any questions so far?
Is it possible that you could overmix that and it's just like full of gluten and not good? I'm just worried about how much time to let that dough hook keep working.
This is a relatively easy recipe. It's hard to overmix it, especially on your, I'm thinking you have one of these at home?
Yes.
Yes, it's a little harder to overmix in one of these. 30 seconds. So I wouldn't worry about that. All right, so now. Now I'm going to put this into a container for it to rest for 45 minutes before I do a stretch and fold to develop more gluten. Can you get me hamster? If you have one of these tools, you can use it to get the dough out. It's just a bowl scraper. Here, I just have a half hotel pan, or you can use something similar at home. Maybe you have like a Pyrex glass pan. It's just a little bit of pan spray. So, there. See if you can see this. It's going to make the dough a little bit neater. Gather it together, flip it over. And then you can cover it with plastic wrap, or if you have a lid, put that on top, and we're going to let this sit for 45 minutes. Okay, so while that's sitting, we can start on our gingerbread cookies. I'm gonna put a timer for the bread. For the gingerbread cookie, you will need your mixer, again, a paddle. Just cover that, please, and leave it on top of the oven. Way. This is a soft gingerbread cookie, and I like the spices in this cookie and a little bit of black pepper for a kick. So similar to the crumble that we made before, we're going to start with creaming the butter. That's soft. While that's going, I'm going to open the rest of my ingredients. When you're mixing any dough, it's very helpful to have a rubber spatula on hand so you can scrape the sides. Okay. Butter, cream. I'm going to add to the butter some granulated sugar. So this mixing method is called a creaming mixing method. That basically means you cream the fat with the sugar. You're going to add the liquid slowly, and then you add the dry ingredients at the very end. When you add the liquid ingredients, just remember to add it slowly. So here I have 1 egg. This is a smaller recipe. And remember your egg and your butter to be at room temperature, so when you combine it, they can emulsify together. And one tip, if you need to bring your eggs to room temperature quickly, you can drop your eggs into warm water. Let it set for a couple of minutes. And if you need your butter to be at room temperature very quickly, you can try microwaving the butter in increments of 15 seconds. All right, so now it has the butter, the sugar, and the egg. I'm going to add, this is the combination of molasses and corn syrup. Right. Again, scrape the sides. The rest, scrape that in there. Gingerbread cookies are probably one of my favorite cookies. Spicy and dark, and I really like the tender texture of this one. Okay. Then the dry ingredients go in last, like I said. So I have some flour, ginger, and cinnamon, cocoa powder to add a little bit of darkness, black pepper, and some baking soda. When you do this at home, you can sift everything together. I just separated them so you can see the different ingredients. So in goes the dry ingredients, flour, spices, cocoa powder, black pepper, and the leavener, baking soda. If you have one of these lift mixers and you have a lot of flour or dry ingredients in there, you can start the mixer and slowly pull this up so you don't get flour going everywhere. So since this is a cookie, we don't want a lot of gluten development, so as soon as the flour disappears, you want to turn off the mixer. All right, the dough come together. can work the dough together with your hands. And I like to just wrap the dough into bricks and let that rest. Can you grab me plastic wrap? And to wrap it up in some plastic wrap. And a nice little dough packet. And you can let that chill. You can let it chill overnight. You can make this ahead and pull out little packets at a time and bake them fresh. Chill that, please. Do you have any more questions for me? Yes? All right. I already made some gingerbread dough. That's the
Yeah,
chill.
show Carol asked, unmute Liz.
How long does it chill for?
I'm sorry?
How long does it chill, like cool down?
How long does it chill for? You can chill it for a couple hours or overnight, or just keep it in your fridge until you're ready to use it. Actually, I would pull it out about 30 minutes before you want to use it so it can soften a little bit. So I already made this dough. It has been chilling, and then I pulled this out about 30 minutes ago. And I'm going to start rolling this dough out for you.
Excuse me.
Yes?
Sorry, how do you slowly add an egg? We're a little bit behind.
Very slowly.
Very slowly.
Yes. Just not all at once,
Okay.
Okay.
because that can break your butter, because since egg is a lot of liquid and your butter is a fat.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you.
All right, so I'm gonna roll out the dough on top of this dough pack. It just makes it a lot easier to roll out and easy cleanup. If you have one at home, use it. If you don't, you can just roll this out straight on your counter. So there are different types of rolling pins. You probably have the one with the 2 ends, and the rolling pin is in the middle that rotates. I like to use just a straight rolling pin. You can get this at the craft store if you like. This is one of my rolling pins that I have. You can also get these rings to help you roll an even height of cookie or any other mix that you want to roll out. So I'm just going to show you with this. I have some what's called dusting flour, just all-purpose flour that helps to keep the dough from sticking to the surface. I'm going to dust that onto my dough pad. This dough is nice for cutting out shapes. You can also make imprints on this cookie and it will remain imprinted while you bake the cookie. I'm just going to take out a chunk of dough, press it down, roll, and then just with the rolling pin, I like to roll away from me. Just gonna do this much here. So here I just have a gingerbread person cookie cutter and a Christmas tree cookie cutter. But you can use any shape that you like. You want to put that onto a baking sheet. Maybe you have a smaller stove pat you can put on top, or I just use parchment paper and just put it on there. And with the dough, you can scrunch it back together, your scraps, so you can re-roll again. I just did 3 trees and 3 gingerbread mints. I'm going to put this into the oven. Since I have a convection oven, I'm going to put it at 325. If you have a conventional oven, I would go 350.
Hello? Sorry, we have one more question. Sorry.
Yes.
How thin were we supposed to roll it?
How soon?
How thin should be
It
rolled?
depends on you.
Oh,
You can rest it for 2 hours and then you can roll it right away, or you could roll it the next day. Depends on when you need it.
oh, sorry, but what I was trying to see, like when you're rolling it, how thick should the dough be?
How thick should it be? This is about 3/8
Eighth of an inch?
of an inch. You can go a little bit thicker. You can go as thin as 1/4 of an inch. You can go relatively thick as well. Depends on you. If I use a larger cutter, I will go with a thicker cookie.
Okay.
Since my cutter is kind of tiny, I went with a thinner cookie.
Oh, okay. Thank you. And how many times can you roll the ends of it back into a ball and roll it out again?
I would say 3 times.
3 times? Okay. And then you just sort of cook the little bits as it is.
What's that?
And then if you have leftovers after that, you just cook the little bits.
Yeah, you can cook the scraps and eat it.
Okay. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. This dough, this is the second time that I rolled it. It's pretty pliable. If you need to, when you roll your dough the first time, if it starts to crumble on you, you can just work it together a little bit, and it'll be pliable for you. So don't be scared if it starts crumbling on
You have to let it rest for 2 hours.
you. You do want to have it rested because after you make it, it could be too soft for you to roll. So if you rest it, the butter will chill a little bit, and it just makes it easier for you to roll. But do you have to rest it? Depends on how comfortable you are with working with the dough. And how long you have to rest it depends on how cold your fridge is and when you need to use your dough. Does that answer your question?
Yes.
Yes. All right, so I'm gonna put this dough away. Okay, now we're gonna go back to your apple. Remember, I had it rested, so now it's not too hot that it will melt the butter because you want the crumble to be cold when you crumble on top. I'm going to put a generous amount of crumble on top to where you can't see the apple.
Did you refrigerate that crumble or did you just set it aside?
I put this in the fridge. Okay, as you can see, it's pretty much covered with crumble. This goes into the oven for about 15 minutes. I want to see the juices bubble for a little bit.
At like 350 or what temperature?
325 in a convection oven and 350 in a conventional oven. Convention oven. Convention meaning no fan.
Right, thank you.
Okay, that is the timer for my cookie. In this oven at PCC, it took about 4 minutes, 5 minutes. And remember, this is a soft gingerbread cookie, so you don't want to put in the oven too long. Now it's baked. And then the other special part about this cookie is it gets a little glaze on top. The glaze is very easy. Two ingredients, powdered sugar and water. So here I have, and this is plenty of glaze for 6 cookies. So this here is 8 ounces of powdered sugar and 2 ounces of water. Whisk that together. And I wanted to show you the glaze now because you want to brush this onto your cookie when it's still slightly warm. Not hot, but warm. If you like, you can also add vanilla to this icing, maybe some lemon extract. So we have a thin icing. I have here a pastry brush. Going to brush that on top. And this is just extra icing. You can save that. You can put in a container, put a lid on it. You can leave it at room temperature and use it for the next batch of cookies. So I'm going to let these cookies cool completely. And now I want to show you how to do bananas foster. So this banana foster you can use as a topping for your pancakes. You can use it as a topping for your ice cream. You just eat it as is. But it does have alcohol in it, so it's not kid friendly. So for this, you need a burner or a gas top, a stove, because you need to burn the alcohol off, and you need an open flame. So here I just have a butane burner and a skillet. And I have some bananas. Preferably you want some spots on your bananas where it's slightly ripe but not too ripe, because you want some texture still. I have a container, a clean container. Just gonna cut up some bananas. Two little pieces. I'm going to show you how to flambe these bananas. I'm just going to do two for you to see. All right, so you want to get your skillet hot. Here I have some butter. So what I'm going to do is melt some butter, brown it a little bit, add some sugar. I like the combination of 50% brown sugar and 50% granulated sugar for this. Bananas. And then for the alcohol, I like to use some banana liqueur for extra banana flavor. and some dark rum. That's getting hot. You want to make sure you have clearance above your flame. I don't know if you can hear, but the butter is sizzling. Add some sugar to that. You want to have a rubber spatula on hand. So your butter is going to start to brown and the sugar will melt and start to caramelize. I had a shaker of cinnamon. Okay, so now I will add banana.
Excuse me.
So you want to coat the bananas in this buttery, caramely goodness.
Excuse me.
Yes,
For the crumble, how long do we keep it in there for?
in the fridge,
In the oven.
in the oven. I have it in there right now. It's been 7 minutes. I'm gonna keep in there for 15 minutes and check on it to see if the juices from the apples have started to bubble. All right.
Thank you.
See, the bananas are cooking nicely. Okay, be very, very careful when you add the liquor. I'm going to add at the very front so you can see. And your pan has to be hot. So a little bit of banana, a little bit of rum. Make sure it's hot. Flambe. For an extra touch, you can sprinkle on some cinnamon to give it some spark. Can you see that? There you go, banana foster. Grab me a bowl.
Now, how long can you keep that or make it ahead? Do you have, is that something that you have to do almost before you serve it?
For the bananas, yes. Yes, because you want that hot, juicy caramel. When it sits, it starts to break down the bananas.
Mhm.
So right now it's. So
And
here's one option for serving your banana Fosters.
Looks
Vanilla ice cream.
Ooh.
Top there. Ice cream with banana Fosters.
Good.
Leave that here. I'm probably gonna eat that in a bit. Okay. So we've done a lot already. We started making focaccia dough. We baked some gingerbread cookies. Our apple crumbles are in the oven. We made banana clusters. So one last thing I want to show you is how to finish your bread.
How much salt did you add at the end when you were making the bread?
At the end, for this recipe, I used 0.25 of an ounce. Oh, by the way, you can just put your gingerbread cookies with your ice cream and banana sauce.
You-
Can I see the dough?
For the gingerbread cookies, if we
Yeah.
wanted to decorate them, is there anything that, would you do anything different or just put the icing right on top of the glaze?
If you want to decorate them, I recommend you baking the cookie longer because this is more of a soft cookie.
Oh, okay.
Yes, but they're still delicious if you bake it a little bit longer.
Oh, okay, thanks. But, and so then you just put the icing on top of the glaze? Or put the decorations on top of the glaze?
If you want to put the icing on top of your cookie, I wouldn't glaze it at all. That
Okay.
glaze is for the sweetness.
Oh, okay.
Since
Thank you.
you're already putting icing on there, it's already gonna be sweet.
Very sweet. Thank you.
You're welcome. All right, so here is, the dough has been resting for about 45 minutes. So I'm gonna do a stretch and fold on it. You just stretch it and fold it. Stretch and fold. Stretch and fold. And fold. So you want to do that again after letting this dough rest for about 45 minutes. And I say about because this depends on your kitchen, how warm your kitchen is. It's pretty warm here. So 45 minutes, maybe if it's colder at your house, you can let it rest for an hour. So for the sake of demo, I'm just going to do another stretch and fold on this one. And then I'll just show you, after your second stretch and fold, you can put some herb olive oil on the bottom of the pan. Spread that around. How's the crumble looking?
There, I don't see any bubbles yet, so I have another 4 minutes.
All right. All right. And then you can take your dough, and push it out. And then you can use more herb oil on top. And then you let that proof until it doubles in size. Again, this is for demonstration purpose. You would have to let this dough rest longer. Then after it's proof, if you like, you can brush more olive oil on top, more earth on top. Bake that in a 350 degree convection oven or a 375 convection oven. And then you get this, or focaccia. Can you grab me a serrated knife? I'm gonna cut this for you. Since you oil, the bottom pops out pretty easily. Focaccia. Any more questions? Now we're just waiting on our crumble. I'm going to check it. It's going to be about 5 more minutes. Who has a crumble in the oven right now?
Ours is still in the oven.
Yes? Looking good though?
Looks really good.
Yes. You have ice cream?
No.
Ice cream goes really well with it. Right on top. Now this isn't quite done yet for purpose of this demo. You can see the top looking more golden. Okay. And like I said, you can put ice cream on top. You can eat as is. You can put some whipped cream on it as well. Or you can just put powdered sugar on it and call it a day. All right, so we did a lot today. We made bread, we made apple cobbler, or sorry, apple crumble. We have now our ice cream with banana foster and some gingerbread men swimming in there. All right, if you don't have any more questions, this is it.
Why do you always suggest using unsalted butter when you bake instead of just regular butter that you
It's
buy?
just the way, yes, this is the way our professional recipes are formulated, so we can control the salt. So you see that some of my recipes, I put salt in there, but I know exactly how much salt goes in there. When you have salted butter, it's harder to control the salt. And plus, some recipes, I don't need any salt in there.
Okay.
And it should be slightly cheaper, the unsalted butter.
Yeah, I'm not, I don't know, I'm not sure. And then do you usually weigh your ingredients rather than measure them in like fluid ounces or a teaspoon of this or tablespoon of that? Do you always weigh it?
I weigh it most of the time. If it calls for teaspoons or tablespoons, like say the spices, I would use teaspoons or tablespoons. However, in a professional kitchen, we want to be very efficient and not waste a lot of dishes. So if you just measure everything into a bowl that you need, let's say I need the butter, the sugar into a mixer bowl, I can just measure in there instead of dirtying a measuring cup, and then I have to wash that measuring cup every time. So that's why I gave you the weighted recipe. So the only thing you need to get is a scale, and I think you'll find it really useful, the scale. I've also noticed a lot of magazines started to do that, to have weight as well as volume measurement. So you can follow that at home, whether you want to use your cup or a scale.
Okay, thank you.
Anything else?
So when I worked at a bakery, I saw my coworkers, like when they were making the focaccia, they were doing like stuff like that in the dough.
Uh-huh.
Do you know what that would do, like to like the dough?
At the end, at the very end?
Yeah.
So that just helps to kind of move the dough into shape. And also you can, if you have like herbs in the oil, like I said, you can basically massage all that flavor into the dough. Because the focaccia dough, it's not very stiff, so you don't want to push it too much. It's a softer dough, so you want to be gentle and kind of guide it along. Okay. Anyone else? All right, well, I hope you have a Merry Christmas and Happy New Year. Enjoy all the baked goods.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.